In today's Market Movers video, we're going to discuss and analyse the hottest transfers in and out of your FPL teams. Could it be wise to move away from Alexander Isak with his minor groin injury? And is it time to sell Dango Ouattara with the arrival of Evan Nielsen back in the Bournemouth squad? Let's talk about it in today's Market Movers video. Today's video is comprised of players that you want to hear about in FPL. It's pointless speaking about the likes of Cunha, Mateta and Anthony Gordon. We know the situation those players are in, so I've made a list of players that you definitely want to hear about and you're going to get value from by watching today's video. Of course, if you aren't subscribed to the FPL Mugs YouTube channel, I am on the road to 1,000 subscribers, so if you're a new viewer around here, go ahead and click that subscribe button for future FPL content and of course, deadline streams. But the first player of today's video is Alexander Isak. Is it now time to sell him with this minor groin injury that keeps coming up for him in fixtures? I think it's really dependent on your team and overall chip strategy going forward in the next few weeks of FPL. If in game week 29 you're looking to use your free hit chip and you've actually penciled in that you're going to commit to that strategy for game week 29, it does make sense just to keep a hold of Alexander Isak. We look at the fixtures past that blank game week and they look really great, especially with the double game week in game week 32. And of course you may have good value tied up in a player like Alexander Isak, so keeping him with that chip strategy and overall view is definitely worth it. But like me, if you're not planning a free hit in game week 29, there is a real possibility to sell Alexander Isak to have the healthiest looking team going into the blank game week. And the thing that kind of supports selling Alexander Isak as well is they have a massive cup final coming up and they're going to want their best player available for that game. So there is a good potential that he is rotated within this West Ham fixture or potentially even benched. So in that situation, I think it definitely makes sense to sell Alexander Isak. But like I say, it's very team dependent. For those managers on a free hit in 29, I actually think Daniel MUNOZ is a very good buy in FPL. You have Ipswich and then Southampton, of course, and if you are free hitting in 29, you're not going to have him in your free hit team. With those two fixtures alone, he's definitely worth buying and potentially keeping a hold of for the tough double game week he has in game week 32. I think he's so attacking and so exciting going forward for Palace. He's just a great asset to buy with that free hit strategy in place, and perhaps in some cases, even without that free hit in 29, your team may look healthy enough to afford having a blank game week player for game week 29. But of course, again, it's massively team dependent on team strategy going forward and overall chip strategy as well. But Daniel MUNOZ, I think, is a decent buy if you're free hitting in game week 29. Dango Ouattara is now a minute's risk in FPL because Evan Nielsen is back from his long-term injury. Of course, we've seen Evan Nielsen start in the FA Cup match against Wolves, and we've seen Dango Ouattara and actually Justin Kluivert benched for that fixture. Do I think it's an immediate fact that Dango Ouattara is benched for the foreseeable future in the Premier League and Evan Nielsen starts up front for Bournemouth? I actually don't see that. I see Dango Ouattara starting games, but his minutes being drastically reduced in the Premier League, of course, with Evan Nielsen's presence being in that Bournemouth side. Of course, Bournemouth have been doing so well in the Premier League. They're actually going to be pushing for European football this season. So with Dango Ouattara being a massive part of that squad and doing really well for them, I just don't see him being brushed under the rug and forgotten about and benched every single week. I see him starting perhaps for the next few weeks of FPL, but again, his minutes are just going to be reduced. If you're looking at other Bournemouth assets to potentially own, of course, Evan Nielsen comes into the conversation, but I think we need to see a few more starts in the Premier League to understand that he's a good pick going forward. But Antoine Semenyo is the real obvious one here. 90 minutes every single week, super reliable. Of course, his FPL points haven't been the greatest over the last 4 weeks-ish. I think just one assist in those games, but still super reliable. And that's what we need in FPL at the moment, especially with that blank game week 29 coming up. Bryan Mbeumo is an FPL manager's dream. He's reliable, he plays 90 minutes every week, he's on penalties, and he plays an attacking style of football. Really, what is not to like? What he lacks in hair, he makes up with massive ability. The only problem going forward into the next few weeks of FPL are his fixtures. They're really just not great coming up, but transfers just aren't easy to make up in these next few weeks of FPL. We're focusing on blank game weeks. We're getting rid of injured and suspended players, and we want that reliable aspect as part of our FPL teams, and Bryan MBEUMO is definitely that player. The fixtures are bad, but of course this man is an FPL manager's dream. Just close to 100,000 transfers have been made in for Bryan MBEUMO this week, and I can understand that with the blank game week coming up and his overall reliability being amazing for an FPL player. Here we are again speaking about Cole Palmer and the potential of selling him ahead of one of the best fixtures he's going to have all Premier League season. Now, Cole Palmer is just low on confidence right now. You've seen it in the way he plays, struggling in one-on-one opportunities and overall just not playing his best football currently. His form is massively down, but there is no doubt on my mind when he gets a goal or two back in the Premier League, he's going to be back to his old self, scoring goals, assisting goals every single week. So for me, I'm not looking to sell him ahead of Leicester at home. He's definitely a captaincy option when you consider Salah could be facing a bit of rotation for that Southampton fixture, especially with their Champions League fixtures and cup final coming up. But overall with Cole Palmer, I think keeping a hold of him isn't a bad idea at all. I think selling him ahead of this fixture maybe isn't the best idea, but people have been right about selling him in the last few weeks. He just hasn't been performing too great, but Leicester at home is a really great opportunity for Cole Palmer to build up that confidence going into the end part of the Premier League season for Chelsea. With a lot of managers now struggling with their forward line of the likes of Cunha and Mateta both out and not available to use in FPL, MARMOUSH has propped up as one of the top buys for the FPL game week for game week 28. Of course, it's a difficult fixture in Nottingham Forest this week, but when we look past that, with Brighton in the blank game week and of course Leicester in game week 30 straight after, it can make sense to bring in a player like MARMOUSH, of course massively cheaper than Erling Haaland and a bit of a differential going forward into the next few weeks of FPL. It's a slight worry with his minutes averaging around 71 to 76 minutes in the Premier League, but I do think that's good enough because he has started every single game and he's looked really, really impressive. He definitely passes the eye test for me. Such an amazing player. But in terms of FPL, I actually don't mind this buy at all. Of course, if you can't afford to move to Erling Haaland, MARMOUSH is so much cheaper, and yes, he may not score as many points and isn't on penalties, and his minutes won't be as good as Erling Haaland, but as a budget differential option going forward into the blank game week, he's definitely not a bad buy in FPL whatsoever. I think this game week, more than any other game week this FPL season, has taught us that early transfers just shouldn't be made if you can afford it, because Mateta and Cunha very, very highly bought this week for FPL. They then go ahead and get either suspended with Matheus Cunha or facing a really horrible injury like Mateta. Now we're looking to sell those players because they aren't available for the next few weeks of FPL. That really teaches us and shows us that early transfers shouldn't be made if we can afford not to make them. In some cases, early transfers definitely make sense. For example, if you're going to be priced out of a player and you need to move early, there's definitely a little bit of risk there, but it does make sense to make those moves. Sadly though, we've learned our lesson this game week, and those managers who have a lot of suspended or injured players in their team, I really feel for you because it's a difficult period in FPL, especially with that blank game week 29 just around the corner. Tomorrow's video, you can expect my team selection for game week 28. I've got a few tough decisions to make, so make sure you tune in for that tomorrow with that upload. And of course, I always end my videos with a massive thank you to you guys watching today's video who support the FPL Mugs YouTube channel. If you have ended up enjoying today's video, go ahead and click the like button. And if you aren't subscribed to the FPL Mugs YouTube channel, click that subscribe button as well for future FPL videos and of course, deadline streams. But that is absolutely everything for today's video. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.